Hello everyone, welcome back to Man United Fans Voice. This is 𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗓𝗔. In the beginning of the season, I would never expect or predict to feel like I am feeling right now. In that first game against Leeds United at Old Trafford, when I was there, practically almost losing my voice from all the screaming and celebrating, I would never expect to be feeling like I am looking forward for this season to end. It has been totally symbolic. Dreadful results, players that don't care, a squad full of toxicity, and at the bottom of all this mess, fans who love Manchester United and who are left disappointed and frustrated time after time again. But if we are completely honest, none of this should really be a surprise. Any person who has watched Manchester United closely of any age can say with certainty that this is a club that has been run terribly for years. A club that has been run by awful decisions time after time, over and over again, by a board that is more interested in shirt sales and clicks on social media than actually winning football games and winning trophies. In this game, we saw the Jekyll and Hyde of Manchester United. The first 35 minutes were probably the best performance from United in months. We saw intensity, counter-pressing, quick forward passes, multiple chances. Bruno scored a goal. It made me think that maybe, just maybe, we finally turned the corner. But no. After those 30-35 first minutes, we gradually lost more and more control of the game, and in the second half, two poor individual mistakes led to 2 goals for Aston Villa, and in the end, one more very disappointing result. But if we try and take away the feelings that we are left with after the final whistle, which of course is disappointment, and it feels like 2 more points dropped, and we only look at the game from a tactical perspective, Manchester United conceded 2 goals from 2 poor positional mistakes by Diogo Dalot. If those mistakes didn't happen, we would be now talking about a probably comfortable 2-0 away win at Aston Villa, a good performance from United, at least for parts of that game, and how optimistic we are about things from now on. Because in football, there are 2 types of bad results. One type is when the system doesn't work and everything on the pitch looks like a complete mess, like it has looked for quite most of the games in recent weeks. And the other type is when your system does work, at least for some periods in the game, but individual errors cost you the result. And that is exactly what happened in this game. So in my opinion, Ragnick's aim going forward is to try and make sure that we can play like we played in those 30-35 minutes for more longer periods in the games. So if we look at the game from that perspective, there is something positive. I think this was the first game under Ralf Ragnick that we saw 3 basic and very important things. A. United dominating through a specific tactical plan. B. Ragnick finding a combination of forward players that are able to work well together both on and off the ball. And C. That less and less players in that squad are now undroppable. But there is still something very worrying. In my opinion, there is an important mentality issue with this team. This squad seems to find it very hard to see games out. When the opposition team reacts, we find it impossible to react back. One more encouraging thing from that game was Elanga's performance. Elanga has clearly impressed Ragnick at training, and he did impress me yesterday. It is so refreshing to see a young lad not afraid to run at players. I'm not sure if he's going to be available for the next game because he did seem to have some injury trouble when he went back to the bench, and I would predict that Ragnick might want to protect a young player from playing back-to-back games, but he has definitely earned his place and he felt like a breath of fresh air. But of course, as we all very well know, straight after the game, Ralf Ragnick was asked why Anthony Martial was not in the squad. And Ragnick replied by saying that Martial was not in the squad for the Aston Villa game because he didn't want to. And straight after that, we had Anthony Martial posting something on his Instagram account, basically saying that what his manager said was not true. Now, up to the point of recording this video, there has not been any more updates regarding this matter. So I'm not going to sit here and try to predict who is telling the truth and who is lying. Like you all know, I am not someone who likes to take advantage of situations like this. I am a Manchester United fan and I am embarrassed and disgusted with what is happening in our club. My opinion on this subject is this. First of all, when a player has openly and clearly said he wants to leave the club, like Martial has, regardless of if technically he is still available, he is no longer an option. When a player says that he wants to go, from that moment he becomes unpickable. And this has nothing to do with respecting or disrespecting the club. When a player wants to leave a club, you cannot demand or expect from him to be committed enough to give you 100% when he is on the pitch. So when you cannot expect from a player to be 100% committed, there is absolutely no point in using him. Regardless of who is lying or not, in my opinion, Ragnick dealt with this wrongly. I don't think that it was the right decision to come out and publicly say that Martial refused to play. It just looks bad for all parties involved. It gives the media more headlines to write. Sometimes this approach does work, so I'm not dismissing it completely. But there has to be a balance, and the line for that balance has to always be what is best for the club. And in this case, Ralf Ragnick coming out and publicly making that statement doesn't make anything better. Everyone knows that Martial wants to leave. Cavani wanted to leave to return to South America, but after a mature conversation with Ralf Ragnick, he dedicated himself to the club. That is what United need. Players creating headlines because they want to go is not good for the club, or a manager who is trying to steady a very unsteady ship. Henderson, Martial, Donny, Lingard, they are all very good players, but none of them has done enough to force more game time. Elanga is obviously training like a demon and he gets a start. That's how this works. That's how you force more game time. You do not say that you want to play after a transfer request. But all of this comes down to, as we said in the beginning of the video, terrible decision making by the Manchester United board. If Martial wasn't on stupid wages, he would be out of the door by now, and we would have probably brought someone else in who would be happy with limited minutes and who would give everything every time he stepped foot on the pitch. And that's not only the case with Martial, but for quite a few players in that squad who were wrongly kept, but not only that, were kept under contracts so ridiculously high that it is almost impossible to find another team stupid enough to pay them what they are earning at United. One more dreadful decision that in my opinion plays a huge part in a lot of the problems we have been hearing recently is that no seriously run football club hires a manager for 6 months. That is ridiculous. How is that manager supposed to have authority and power over his players? How is that manager supposed to get the most out of those players when they know that after 6 months he is no longer going to be the manager? It is laughable. Even if Ragnick isn't the right man, even if Ragnick wasn't the man you wanted, give him at least a 2-year contract. And if by the summer he has done such a dreadful job, sack him. Hiring a manager for 6 months is unbelievably stupid. No team in any sport can expect results and improvements by a manager that doesn't have enough power to turn around to his players and say, listen, I will be here next year. If you want to be here, then you have to do exactly what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. Listen to me carefully. The day this club returns to its tried and tested fundamental to support the manager through tough times, instead of pulling the trigger every time the clueless fan base and clickbaiting journalists and fan cams start throwing a tantrum, it will then return to the top. I have been saying this for ages. As long as those players know that the fan base will blame the manager for the problems instead of them, they have no reason to try and do better. Nothing will change even if we brought back Sir Alex. It is January and United are 7th, 24 points behind the top. Our league position is absolutely fair and correct. As much as it hurts, this is exactly what we deserve. Not good enough. Goodbye.